Chapter 1. Hook. The Shocking Opening. October 20th, 2025. A solar telescope in an ordinary person's living room. Raw, unprocessed photographs displaying something that is not a comet. Precise coordinates: 13 hours, 48 minutes, 57.33 seconds, minus 8 degrees, 25 minutes, 54.3 seconds, the exact position that NASA announced for 3I Atlas. But this image reveals something impossible: a structure, a heated shield pointing directly at the sun, a dark nucleus with inverted colors, a faint column of gas expelled in the wrong direction. And here is what stops you cold. There is no tail. Every comet you have ever heard of has a tail. It is not optional. It is physics. Solar wind pushes gas and dust away from the sun. Always. Without exception. So what are we actually looking at? An object hiding behind our sun. One that arrives at precisely the right moment for an orbital maneuver. One emitting industrial alloys we have only ever seen in human spacecraft. To understand why this image is so extraordinary, we must rewind to the beginning of the story, and it begins with NASA's silence. Chapter 2. Setting and Character. The Starting Point. 3. I Atlas. Or more accurately, 3. Atlantis is not an alien object. It is a comet. Or at least that is what we call it. Discovered in August 2024 by the Atlas Survey, an automated astronomical scanning system designed to detect potentially hazardous asteroids. But 3I Atlas is not an asteroid. It comes from outside our solar system. For the first time in human history, we have detected a comet from another star system, from a space so distant that we have never ventured near it. Its orbit was the first clue: extremely elongated elliptic, a shape suggesting it formed in an environment entirely different from ours. It will reach its closest approach to the Sun on October 29th perihelion, distance at closest 0.159 astronomical units. Close, very close, close enough that our instruments can observe it. NASA announced this publicly in August. An official statement, clear, unambiguous. 3I Atlas is a natural comet from outside our solar system. They released the coordinates, they released the orbital predictions, they released brightness forecasts, standard procedure, by the book. But there is a problem. There are very few official photographs from major observatories. Hubble is silent. Keck Observatory is silent. Palomar is silent. The official reason is simple: too close to the sun for safe observation with conventional telescopes. Sunlight would blind the sensors. But the amateur astronomy community, they are not silent. Hundreds of astronomers worldwide own solar telescopes. These are specialized instruments specifically designed to observe objects near the sun. They are not crackpots. They are science enthusiasts, experienced, knowledgeable about processing raw data. They organize into informal networks, sharing observations directly on Reddit, Cloudy Nights Forum, Stargazers Lounge. They are faster. They are more agile. They are not bound by the lengthy procedures of official agencies. One of them calls themselves at Dobsonian Power. Account created in 2015. Regular activity but unremarkable. 2,847 followers. Not an influencer, not a propagandist, just someone who loves astronomy. But at Dobsonian Power possesses something different. They know how to use their equipment. Their older posts reveal deep knowledge of telescope calibration, raw image processing, and interpretation of complex spectra. Not a professional, but not a novice either. On October 20th at 1600 hours Universal Time, at Dobsonian Power posts a photograph. Simple. No lengthy commentary. Just coordinates, timestamp, and the words, "Look at this." The image uploads quickly. People in the community begin examining it. They understand immediately that something is wrong. Discussions begin. People in major observatories notice the post. Some attempt to replicate the observation. Thousands of eyes turn in that direction. And then silence. No statement from NASA. No confirmation, no denial. No email from mainstream scientists explaining the phenomenon. Just silence. The entire apparatus of official science halts, like a switch has been turned off. This is unusual. When a significant discovery emerges, official agencies typically respond within hours. They check. They verify. They publish results. But not this time. Nothing but silence from 5 ESA agencies, from NASA, from observatories, worldwide, as if they received an instruction from above. Say nothing. To understand why this silence is problematic, we need to examine what that photograph actually shows and how it violates every rule about comet physics that we know. Chapter 3. Evidence and Data. To understand why the photograph from October 20th is extraordinary, we must return to what we know about comet physics. This is not obscure science. These are facts proven through thousands of years of observation. A comet is a dirty snowball flying through space, a mass of ice, rock, and dust. When it approaches the sun, what happens is remarkably simple and invariable. Heat from solar radiation does not melt ice like ice cubes in a drink. Instead, it sublimates, transitioning directly from solid to gas without passing through a liquid phase. Water ice, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, all rise as vapor when heated. This vapor escapes from the comet's surface, carrying dust particles with it. No gravitational force is strong enough to hold them. Each dust particle flies outward, forming a cloud around the nucleus, what we call the coma. But that is only half the story. When these particles escape, they encounter the solar wind, a high-energy stream of plasma emanating from the sun. This wind, combined with radiation pressure, pushes all this material away from the sun. It does not push them sideways. It does not push them back. It pushes them straight outward. The result is a tail, a long, distinct tail, always pointing away from the sun, like a flag in a cosmic wind. Sometimes there are two tails. A dust tail, slightly curved along the orbital path. An ion tail, perfectly straight, blown by solar wind, like hair in a hurricane. This happens every time, without exception. We can predict what a comet looks like at any distance from the sun based on its size and composition. We have observed comets for thousands of years. We have sent spacecraft to them. We have landed on them. We understand comet behavior the way we understand boiling water or rusting iron. 3i Atlas is not following the script. The photograph from October 20th shows what? A narrow jet of emission. We call it a jet, but this jet does not point away from the sun as a normal comet would. It points directly at the sun, opposite to everything physics tells us. The nucleus appears distinctly dark in the inverted color scheme, something normal for this type of imaging, but something else is different. Around it are distinctly geometric structures, a shield, a jet, something resembling a small fan expelled upward and to the left, not hazy clouds, not the blurred structures of a sublimating comet, distinct structures, defined, controlled. One hypothesis from mainstream scientists is the anti-tail, an optical illusion occurring when Earth passes through or near the orbital plane of a comet. From this perspective, a dust tail can appear to point toward the sun. It is like viewing a flying disk from the side versus from above. The shape appears entirely different. The anti-tail is a real phenomenon. It is not a fantasy, but an anti-tail remains part of a larger tail structure. It is still surrounded by a bright coma. It is still evidence of large-scale outgassing. The October 20th photograph shows none of that. Instead, we see something discrete, a nucleus, a shield, a jet, a small cloud, and very little else. No expansive coma, no dense atmosphere, no signs of significant comet activity. The dark nucleus alone is unusual. When we observe a comet nucleus using this type of solar imaging, it should be surrounded by a bright shell emanating from the coma. This atmospheric envelope should gradually fade as you move outward from the nucleus. A gradient. A gentle gradient. The October 20th photograph shows a dark nucleus with clearly defined structure, not a descriptive gradient, something distinct, definite boundaries, definite shape. The timeline is also crucial. The photograph was posted at 1600 hours Universal Time on October 20th. At 0 hours Universal Time on October 21st, 3I Atlas enters solar conjunction positioned exactly behind the Sun relative to Earth. From then until October 29th, we cannot see it. It is hidden, unobservable from Earth. That is a 9-day window. 9 days when no one can see it except specialized instruments. 9 days when anything could happen behind the sun where we cannot look. On October 29th, around 1400 hours Universal Time, 3I Atlas reaches perihelion, the closest point to the sun. This is our moment. This is when gravitational force is strongest, when heat intensity is greatest. If a comet is a comet, right now it will become extraordinarily active. If it is something else, what we are about to discover will change everything. But before we get there, we must consider what else could explain what we are seeing. And is what we are seeing actually fact or merely an artifact of how we are observing? We need a plan. We need to know how to verify. We need to know precisely what we are looking for. So we have 3 hypotheses, 3 ways to interpret what this photograph is showing us. 1 is ordinary science, 2 is technology, 3 is a combination of both, concealed by official silence. Chapter 4. Main hypotheses and binary test. Now we need to discuss what this photograph might actually mean. There are 3 ways to interpret the data from October 20th. 3 completely different approaches. Each has its own predictions. Each has different observable traces that we can search for. First hypothesis, 3I Atlas is a natural comet with unusual behavior. This is the highest probability hypothesis by scientific standards, approximately 60 to 70% likelihood. Any comet can have an eccentric sublimation mechanism. Some comets have irregular nuclei with active and inactive surfaces. Some have complex internal structures, making outgassing unpredictable. Comet Kohoutek in 1973, it lacked the expected dust tail. An enormous surprise. Comet Neowise in 2020, its jets were asymmetrical, its nucleus irregular, its behavior extremely difficult to predict. Comet physics is more complex than what our simple models suggest. Under this hypothesis, what we see on October 20th can be explained. A jet pointing at the sun that could be an anti-tail, or it could be a narrow coma structure amplified by the H-alpha filter that Dobsonian power uses. A dark nucleus that could be an artifact of low resolution, or PSF, point spread function, the halo of scattered light surrounding bright objects in an image. Lack of expansive coma that could mean this comet has low volatile content, or its nucleus is covered with a protective layer of water ice. What we see right now might only be the beginning of the story. As perihelion approaches, the coma will develop. A tail will appear. Everything will make sense. The predictions from this hypothesis are clear. After October 29th, we will see the comet shift to heightened activity. The coma will become 3 to 10 times wider. A dust tail will form, slightly curved along the orbital path, extending 1 to 5 degrees across the sky. An ion tail will form, straight, pointing away from the sun, extending 5 to 30 degrees. Brightness will increase according to a predictable model, calculable from standard comet models. It will be easily observable from amateur telescopes in November, December, January. But then there is a second hypothesis. 3I Atlas is an artificial spacecraft from another star system, a probe, a vessel, technology. This probability is lower, approximately 10 to 20%, but not zero. A shield pointing at the sun? That is a radiator, a heat dissipation system. It is expelling heat from the vessel. Or it is a collector, an energy harvesting device capturing radiation from the sun. A jet pointing at the sun? That is a thruster and ion engine or a controlled gas emission system designed to maintain orbital equilibrium. No coma and no tail? It does not emit natural gases. It controls all exhaust. It is a machine, not a rock. Under this hypothesis, perihelion is not a time of increased activity. It is a time for executing orbital maneuvers. On October 29th, around 1400 hours, this vessel could activate its thrusters. It could alter its trajectory. It could use the sun's gravity to conserve energy, executing an orbital maneuver that human engineers would call a Hohmann transfer. That is when we would detect it. Orbital deviation, a change in position from what we predicted, or it could deploy probes. At perihelion, at the moment of closest approach to the sun, when radiation energy is maximal, the mothership could launch small probes. These probes will separate gradually due to tidal force from the sun, the difference in gravitational pull between one side of the probe and the other. After 3 weeks, 4 weeks, these probes will be hundreds of thousands of kilometers from the mothership. They will appear as distinct points of light in our photographs, multiple objects instead of one. If this occurs, there will be no way to conceal it. The global astronomy community will see it. Hundreds of astronomers with telescopes, all sharing images directly on the internet. There will be no silence. Then there is a third hypothesis. 3i Atlas is artificial technology, but official agencies already know about it. They know, and they have decided not to speak. This probability is very low, approximately 5 to 15%, but it is the only hypothesis that fully explains complete silence. If 3i Atlas is technology from outside our solar system, announcing it would trigger a global political crisis, not a quiet extraterrestrial encounter, not a serene scientific discovery. A crisis. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 states that no nation can own a celestial body, but it says nothing specific about technology drifting freely through space. The nation first confirming the existence of this vessel, or more precisely discovering it as technology, will establish first contact rights, rights to access, rights to research, potentially rights to ownership. Other nations will object. There will be competition. There will tension, possibly a space war, without rules. So what is the logical approach? Every major nation, international agencies, space agencies will say nothing until there is international consensus, until they can speak simultaneously with the same message, until legal frameworks are prepared, until treaties are drafted, until no nation can gain advantage over another. This pattern of behavior is called compartmented secrecy. From the intelligence community, when one nation knows something but decides not to speak, because speaking would reveal to other nations that they know. And then other nations would act differently. Silence maintains the status quo. Silence is a strategic advantage. So we have 3 ways to interpret the data. Now we need to know how to verify each one. We need a plan. We need to know what we are searching for, when we search for it, and how we know if we are correct or wrong. Before we jump to UFOs, listen to what mainstream scientists say. They have logical arguments, well-constructed arguments full of data, but those arguments also have gaps. Chapter 5, Counter-Argument and Mainstream Perspective. Steelman. What we just presented is not mainstream science. These are alternative hypotheses, fringe theories. So listen to what mainstream scientists say. Their arguments are logical. They are based on facts. They are not baseless claims. First, comets are complex objects. We have observed more than 5,000 comets in detail. They exhibit remarkably diverse behavior. Comet Kohoutek in 1973, it lacked the expected dust tail, a major surprise. Comet Neowise, in 2020, its jets were asymmetrical, its nucleus irregular, its behavior extremely unpredictable. We have seen weak comas, we have seen narrow tails, we have seen anomalies that theory could not immediately explain. Comet physics is more complex than the simple models we use. That is not surprising. Nature is always more complex than theory. Second, H-alpha filters can create illusions. The solar telescope that at Dobsonian power uses employs a narrowband filter, a filter allowing only light of very specific wavelengths to pass. H-alpha is around 656 nanometers. At this wavelength, if there is a narrow but directionally oriented coma structure, it could be amplified. It could appear larger, with sharper boundaries than it actually has. An antitail from a normal comet, viewed through an H-alpha filter, could look like a jet pointing at the sun. That is an optical artifact, not a physical reality. Third, image resolution is limited. A photograph from a typical solar telescope has resolution of about 1 to 2 arc-seconds per pixel. This means structures smaller than that can be reprocessed, created by the way the lens focuses light. This is called point spread function, or PSF. A small comet nucleus surrounded by a halo of scattered light. With low resolution, this halo can appear as distinct structures, looking like shields or geometric patterns, but it is just light jumbled by optics. Fourth, a comet could have low volatile content. Or, and this is important, its nucleus could be covered with a protective non-sublimating crust. A mantle formed from the outer layer of a comet nucleus over thousands of years of exposure to space. Along a long orbital path, a comet experiences freeze-thaw cycles. It approaches the sun, it escapes the sun, it travels to colder regions. Each time it cools, what is on the comet's exterior can freeze into a hard layer, non-sublimating. As it approaches the sun, this layer will protect what lies beneath. Only after this layer erodes away in the first weeks or months after perihelion can deeper material sublimate. If this is the case, we will see the coma develop gradually, not immediately, but progressively as the protective layer is removed. Fifth, why are official agencies silent? There is a very practical reason. NASA and ESA have lengthy procedures. They must verify data. They must check methodologies. They must ensure that what they say is accurate. Announcing publicly too soon can cause damage, unnecessary panic, non-scientific speculation, misinformed reporting. As part of the scientific community, you must be careful. Most discoveries from amateur communities are either false or irrelevant. Announcing too early about them will damage the reputations of agencies. So the strategy is silence until certainty. Investigate first, verify, check, then announce. That is the Steelman, the strongest arguments of mainstream science. Well-constructed arguments. Arguments based on genuine understanding of comet anomalies, optics, and publication procedures. But these arguments also have gaps. 5,000 comets. But among those 5,000, how many precisely combine all three of these properties simultaneously? 0 expansive coma? 0 tail? A directional jet pointing at the sun? We do not have an answer to that, because it has never happened before. H-alpha filters can create artifacts. Possibly. But at Dobsonian power does not use only H-alpha. They use multiple filters, they use raw exposure, and both produce similar images. If this were a filter artifact, it would disappear when you switch filters. It does not. PSF can create illusions. Possibly. But the structure we see a dark nucleus with a distinctly bright shield is too sharp, too defined to be merely PSF. If it were PSF, it would be softer. It would be less defined. A mantle could protect the nucleus, possibly, but if that were the case, we would expect to see at least some signs of outgassing, beginning a faint halo, some brightening. The October 20th photograph does not show that. It displays a quiet nucleus, a shield, a jet, no signs of comet activity beginning. NASA is cautious, yes, but complete silence, no response, no confirmation, no denial from 5 ESA agencies within the first 12 hours, that is not normal. There is precedent for long-term silence when there is direction from above, but usually there would be at least a temporary statement. We are investigating. We will announce when we have more information. Not this time. Only silence. So the Steelman is not weak. It is just not completely strong enough to explain the entire body of evidence. 5,000 comets have never produced all three properties simultaneously. H-alpha filters have been checked. Multiple filters show the same result. PSF is too sharp for this pattern. Protective mantles still produce some outgassing signature. And 12 hours of complete silence from 5 agencies is unprecedented without a directive. The mainstream explanation does not hold. Not entirely. Not yet. Chapter 6. Twist. Larger conspiracy link. But that is only what we can observe. That is only what we can explain through comet physics and optics. The real story begins when we examine history. And this history is very different. A leaked document appears on UFO forums. The word leaked, unverified, not officially approved. But it spreads rapidly. It claims that NASA detected a signal from beyond Earth, a signal from the Alpha Centauri system. In 2019, this signal was reportedly classified as defense priority, not to be shared with international partners. NASA denies the document. They say clearly, false, no signal, no discovery. But they never provide refuting evidence. They never say, here is why it is wrong. Only silent denial. How do we distinguish between we do not know and we know but we are not saying? Another signal. Near the star Vega, detected by Arecibo radio telescopes. This signal was reported as anomalous, but the report was suppressed for 6 months. 6 months of no confirmation, no denial, no public comment. Then it was explained as an artifact from an artificial satellite. Official announcement? Problem solved. The official reason for the silence? To avoid public panic, to avoid uncontrolled reactions, to avoid a geopolitical crisis. It was very explicit. If there is evidence of extraterrestrial life or technology from beyond Earth, the announcement could produce enormous social consequences. And there is another precedent. The CIA and the U.S. Department of Defense, the KH-11 satellite from the 1970s, a military secret designed to monitor Soviet space activities. The Soviets did not know about it until they did. For a long time, the CIA claimed it did not exist. They denied it completely, but over time, information leaked from intelligence agencies. The public found out. Still, the government refused to confirm for many years. What was the strategy? Keep the secret to maintain strategic advantage. If the Soviets knew that the United States knew about them, the Soviets would alter strategy. If you know that others know about you, you act differently. Silence is a weapon. Silence protects interests. Now apply this logic to 3I Atlas. If 3I Atlas is an interstellar object, technology from beyond our solar system. Announcing it would trigger a global political crisis, not a quiet extraterrestrial contact, not a serene scientific discovery, a crisis. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 states that no nation can own a celestial body, but it says nothing specific about technology drifting freely through space. The first nation to confirm the existence of 3I Atlas, or more precisely, to discover it is technology, will establish first contact rights, rights of access, rights to research, possibly rights to ownership. Other nations will protest. There will be competition. There will be tension. Possibly a space war without rules. So what is the rational approach? Every major nation, international agencies, space agencies will say nothing until there is international consensus, until they can speak simultaneously with the same message, until legal frameworks are drafted, until treaties are written, until no nation can gain advantage over another. This pattern of action is called compartmented secrecy from the intelligence world. When one nation knows something but decides not to speak, because speaking would reveal to other nations that they know, and then other nations would act differently. Silence maintains the status quo. Silence is a strategic advantage. Now consider another fact. JUICE Jupiter, Icy Moons Explorer, an ESA spacecraft, launched in 2023, currently en route to Jupiter. Its trajectory was planned in 2016, a trajectory calculated long before 3I Atlas was discovered. But here is what is interesting. On November 4th, JUICE will be approximately 64 million kilometers from 3I Atlas. Too close to be coincidence? If JUICE were not redirected, if the trajectory were not adjusted, then this is merely coincidence. A remarkable coincidence of orbital mechanics. But if the trajectory were adjusted even slightly to draw closer to 3I Atlas, then it means something. It makes sense. If NASA, ESA, these agencies want to observe 3I Atlas up close, want to photograph in detail, want to analyze composition, want to know, does adjusting a trajectory cost money? Yes. Hundreds of millions of dollars in propellant, millions of kilometers added to the journey. But that is a space agency with a $10 billion budget. That is not a financial problem. So we have a pattern, a history of silence, a history of silent denial, a history of compartmented secrecy from government agencies, a satellite directed to a position near 3I Atlas, a leaked document from 2021, a report suppressed in 1996. Complete silence from 5 agencies when Dobsonian power posts the photograph. The pattern is clear. You can see it. You can trace it. We are not searching for a hidden conspiracy. We are simply reviewing publicly what agencies have done in the past and searching for evidence of it, repeating now. The final question is, if official agencies know, what will they do? If 3I Atlas is an artificial spacecraft, if it is deploying probes or executing an orbital maneuver on October 29th, the agencies will know. They will measure the trajectory change. They will detect deviation from predictions. Or JUICE will photograph in detail right on November 4th. And then there will be 3 choices: silence, announcement, or leak. Silence can continue. Data will be withheld. It will take months, possibly years, before the public knows, if ever. But the global astronomy community will see it. They will see the probes. They will see the trajectory change. There is no way to hide it from hundreds of people with telescopes and cameras, all sharing data directly on the internet. Silence will have an expiration date. Chapter 7. Countdown and open ending. So here we are. October 21st, 3I Atlas has hidden behind the sun. We cannot see it. We can only wait. 9 days. 9 days when anything could happen behind the sun where we cannot look. October 29th, around 1400 hours, Universal Time, perihelion 3I Atlas, at closest approach to the sun. Gravitational force is strongest. Heat is highest. If it is a natural comet, it will begin a burst of activity. If it is a spacecraft, right now it will execute an orbital maneuver. Right now it will deploy probes. Right now, something will change. Our satellites, our orbital Earth monitoring satellites, will sense the change. Deviation in gravitational field, a small adjustment but measurable. If there are people tracking this data, and there are, they will know. November 2nd, 3rd, 4th. 3I Atlas rises from behind the sun, becomes visible again. Hundreds of astronomers worldwide begin photographing. Reddit, Cloudy Nights, Stargazers Lounge. These communities erupt with activity. Images shared within minutes. No delay, no official verification, just raw data, shared directly from person to person. Does the coma develop? That is the first question. If it is a normal comet, the coma will become 3 to 5 times wider, a dense cloud surrounding the nucleus. There will be tails, dust tail, ion tail, or both. They will be distinct. They will be easy to see, even with average amateur telescopes. But if there is still no coma, if the nucleus remains dark, still isolated, still has a jet pointing at the sun, if that happens again in November, again in December, again in January, then the anomaly is confirmed. Not a mistake, not an artifact, a real pattern, an abnormal behavior, repeated, measurable. November 4th, JUICE spacecraft, 64 million kilometers from 3I Atlas. JUICE has cameras. It has spectrometers. It has particle detectors. It can measure the environment. It can photograph in detail. It can analyze composition. It can answer questions that telescopes from Earth cannot. If JUICE photographs, what will we see? If it is a normal comet, we will see a nucleus with bright coma. We will see sublimating jets. We will see evidence of activity. If it is technology, what will we see? A shield, a radiator, a heat sink, possibly mechanical components, possibly panels, possibly something we do not expect. Or JUICE will photograph nothing. There will be no data, no public images. ESA will say that JUICE could not capture good images, position not optimal, cameras directed elsewhere, a reasonable explanation. But that will be a sign. November through December. 3I Atlas continues to rise. We continue to photograph. We continue to search for signs of probes, secondary objects separating from the primary. If 3I Atlas deployed probes at perihelion, they will be hundreds of thousands of kilometers from the mothership by late November. They will appear as distinct points of light, impossible to conceal, impossible to deny. Multiple objects instead of one. December 19th, closest approach to Earth. 269 million kilometers, only close in cosmic scale. SETI instruments, massive radio telescopes, all aimed at 3I Atlas, searching for signals, searching for narrowband signals, searching for anything artificial, anything that is not natural noise. If 3I Atlas is transmitting, this is the moment. Closest to Earth. Strongest signal. Best opportunity for us to hear. If there is a message, if there is evidence of any attempt at communication, we will detect it now. But if silence, if no signals, if nothing appears on our receivers, then that too is an answer. A different answer. Silence when closest. Silence when best to listen. February 15th, 2026. Final data from JUICE. 3 months of transmitting data from deep space back to Earth. ESA announces the images. It is the moment of truth, the moment we know for certain. Either the coma developed, or it did not. Either there are probes or there are not. Either the trajectory changed or it did not. March 16th, 2026. Juno spacecraft. Jupiter orbiter. It will be 54 million kilometers from 3I Atlas. The last observation opportunity, the last time we have a large spacecraft nearby. After that, 3I Atlas will be too dim, too distant. It will disappear into the universe. So we have 5 months. 5 months to find the answer. 5 months to know whether 3I Atlas is a natural comet or technology from beyond our solar system. 5 months to change everything or to confirm that everything remains the same. And we are not relying only on official agencies. The global astronomy community will be our eyes. Hundreds of people with telescopes, sharing data directly. No satellites to redirect. No agencies to answer to. Just raw truth. Images. Data, facts. You can help. If you have a telescope photograph, save RAW. Save EXIF. Share it. If you have access to satellite data, publish whatever you find. If you are a journalist, watch. Compare what official agencies say with what the data shows. Ask hard questions. We are tracking an object through space. We are measuring its properties. We are trying to understand it. We are using our tools, telescopes, spacecraft, mathematics, logic, to answer one of humanity's oldest questions. We have a rare opportunity, a rare moment, to know, to discover, to stop wondering. October 29th is coming. The sun will announce the answer. And we, all of us, official and amateur, sitting at computers and standing outside with telescopes, we will listen. Let us find out.